Good morning, Ivan. Such a nice
Morning.
pleasure to see you again. How are you?
Very good, very good.
Thank you so much for being with us today. Gabi already introduced you to our colleagues here, and we can't wait to hear your presentation. Just one thing that, because Gabi mentioned many things about you, many interesting things about you, and I don't want to repeat them, but I want to share with our colleagues a great idea we've discussed about during the lockdown. You remember some months ago. Really impressed me and made me thought further about it was that idea of creativity as discipline and the importance of discipline while being creative. Because as you mentioned at that time, we cannot talk about creativity if we don't take into consideration the discipline. And somehow we thought that being creative is anything but discipline. But you came with this interesting idea. Of course, it's not the topic of our meeting today, and but it's something to think about. It's something to keep in our mind, and maybe, I don't know, to play a bit with this idea, because it's really great. Once again, Ivan, thank you. Thank you so much for being with us today, and we are so happy to have you here and to listen to your talk. So the floor is yours, and we are happy to hear you, Ivan.
So everyone speaks English, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. So no translation. Good.
This is the beautifulness of Romania. The landscape and internet and all the people speaks English.
And beautiful people, as I can see.
We can't do it in Turkish, and I think not many of us can do Russian. But English, it's okay.
Okay, so Turkish I cannot do either. So the topic today is how to use a psychosomatic arch in order to understand the focus of the therapy. So, and first of all, I would like to remind you these basic ideas that Nossrat Peseschkian brought to us, that any symptom, as well as any conflict, is actually capacity to discharge the tension created by inner conflict or external conflict. So any symptom is a capacity to discharge the inner tension. This is important to bear in mind, because this gives us a lot of insights that we will talk about in this presentation. So first, I would like to represent you the topic of psychosomatic from the point of view of two mainly involved people. So the first, from the point of view of the doctor. So for the doctor, the psychosomatic is a very interesting subject, because every doctor knows that a lot of patients who come to him has something which he cannot treat. Like he tries, but it doesn't work. And something which is very much related with the psychological situation of the person. He knows it, but unfortunately, the doctor's mind thinks in a very systematic way. And if he doesn't have any description of how the somatization works, he doesn't believe in this. So he understands it's psychosomatic, but he don't have any clear idea how psyche becomes somatic and how it's related with each other. And therefore, he doesn't really believe in this. So then, because there is no clear description of the somatization process, there is no clear diagnostic strategy. So because in DSM term, so it was like kind of diagnosis of exclusion. If you cannot find any like somatic reasons for the disease, so the analysis are good and all the tests are good, but the person still has the symptoms, then you say it's psychosomatic, which is not true, because a lot of psychosomatic disorders can show some changes in physiology. So it's not only like physiologically asymptomatic diseases, it's actually like much broader scale of diseases. So, but for doctors, there is no diagnostic strategy to say that this is psychosomatic and this is not. So, and therefore it's become like very strange subject. So if you don't know the pathogenesis, if you don't know how psyche becomes somatic, if you don't have a diagnostic strategy, you have no idea what to do about it. Because like, so what all doctors do, they basically just say, okay, that's psychosomatic, go see psychologist. But the truth is, if you talk to the doctor, so almost no doctor believes psychologists can help. They just kind of say, okay, I cannot do anything about it, go there, maybe they do something. So, and this is very sad situation, unfortunately, because it's a lot of people have this problem, and doctors feel helpless, and the most importantly, doctors feel hopeless about it. And when they talk to people about it, people feel it. People feel that doctors have no idea what it is. So, and that's a problem. So, and it's interesting that I don't know, before I didn't notice such an interest, but in last, say 2 years, so I have a lot of requests from the medical associations to speak in different conferences. Like next week, I will talk in a proctology conference about it. So which is very interesting thing. So they called and they told we need it. And they invite actually me and few other colleagues to speak about psychosomatic. So there is growing interest from the doctors because they want to understand what's going on. So let's think about this from the perspective of the patient. So the patient becomes excessively fixated on a physical suffering. You know by yourself, when you're physically suffering, when there is a physical pain, unless you get rid of it, it's difficult to think about anything else. So when you have a physical discomfort, you think you focus on a physical suffering. And it's very difficult then for the person to think that it has some other roots. So it is physical suffering, it is obvious. So, and you want to relieve, that's it. So, and sure, we try to control symptom, we try to get rid of it, or at least to make it easier. But the problem with a psychosomatic symptom, it doesn't work that easy. Like, for instance, if you have like constriction of the vessels, you take a pill, it's dilated, you feel better. So with psychosomatic symptoms, it doesn't usually work this way. And this makes person even more obsessed with this symptom, even more fixated on a physical suffering. So, and sure, because like they have this experience of having the symptom and not being able to control it, they're actually afraid the symptom will appear again. So the good example is the person with a panic attack, because when the person have panic attack, no one thinks about this as a panic attack. They feel about this, first of all, as a usually heart attack, because most of the patients with a panic attack, they have like symptoms which are very much alike the heart attack. And it's very intense and it's very strong. And when person once have it, he's afraid to have it for the rest of their life because he remembers it. So it's difficult to forget it. So it's difficult to unfeel it, so to say. So, and because there is a fear, so the fear is creating stress, but person don't know what to do with this, so he experience anxiety. So these people are very anxious about the possibility to get the symptom again, and when they get it again, they're very anxious even more. So, and sure, to such a patient, so he has experience usually to be sent from doctor to doctor, and every doctor says, well, it's not physical. But the problem is that patient experience it as physical. So, and he mistrusts the doctor, and so when the doctor say, okay, it's psychosomatic, a lot of patients perceive it as doctors think that I made it up, that it's kind of factitious symptoms, that I'm making it like purposefully. So, or that I'm stupid, or that I'm crazy, something like that. So, and sure, so such person, even if it goes to the psychotherapist, because doctors can say, okay, before you see psychotherapist, you don't come to me again. So, and even such a person goes to psychotherapist, he basically sabotages psychotherapy because it seems like a waste of time. He feels like that time is preciously, that the doctors just a little bit stupid and don't know what they do. And while they don't know what they do, so that something serious disorder develops. So, and there should be, for real symptoms, there should be a real treatment. So if I have a pain or discomfort physically, then I have to have a physical treatment, not some talks, because they have no idea how talks can help. And so this is a major problem there. So, but doctor cannot, so the problem is that doctors, because of the reasons that we discussed before, they have difficulty to explain to the patient how does it work and to make it understandable. So this is what we will try to do today. So we will try to understand it from the physiological and psychological point of view and to see how it works. So first of all, we need to think about human being, not about soma and not about psyche, but about human being as a whole, as a self-regulating system. So what does that mean? So the self-regulation works very simply. So if there is some change in external or internal world, if there is some stimulus, think about thermostat. So now Gabi told you have a snow in Romania. So it means that it's quite cold already. So you put your thermostat, let's say, on 18 degrees Celsius plus, because this is a good temperature for living and thinking, not 25. So you put it on 18. So, and but the temperature usually actually goes below. So it goes to 0 and below 0. If you have snow, it's obviously below 0. So, and then it's a stimulus. It's stimulus which destabilizes the system. So then what happens, as soon as system destabilized, so the signal goes to the system, to the brain of the system, to the computer in your thermostat. And the computer actually initiates reaction. So the heater starts working. And when the heater starts working, it's the temperature increase. And as soon as the temperature increase up to the temperatures that you set up, let's say to 18 Celsius, so then the stimulus is kind of neglected. So then the system is stable again. It's the very same way our body works. And the very same way our mind works. So is that clear? So far, is that clear? Any questions? Okay, no questions, good. So, and when we speak about self-regulation, we should bear in mind few levels of self-regulation. So the first and most ancient level is peptide level. It's actually a level of cell self-regulation. So the peptides is a small molecules which actually brings the information to the cell, actually stimulating cell to actually stimulating DNA to reproduce peptides and to reproduce so different substances in order to activate the body. So recently there is a hypothesis that this change we perceive as emotion. So in the whole body, they say, so that peptide regulation changes the cell activity, so activity of the whole body, and we perceive it as emotion. So it's based also, like, first of all, on this, like, opioid peptides, which produce us feeling of satisfaction, and so, and some other peptides which produce us other feelings. So we perceive it, we feel it, because activity of the cells change, activity of the tissues change. We feel it physically, we experience it somehow, and we call it emotions. So this is hypothesis so far. It has some good proofs, some debates around it, but it's good to know. So the next level is a level of the immune system. So what immune system does, it's actually trying to keep the tribe of the cells out of foreign cells. So if you have a tribe, you don't want to have foreigners. You want to keep like the unity of the tribe. So as soon as like some new cells which are not recognized coming, so the immune system kind of exhale them, so or kill them. So and if some of own cells start changing, like a cancer, for instance, so the immune system attack it. So in order to keep the unity of this tribe of the cells, so in order to keep like cellular homeostasis of the body. So, and this is what we are trying to stimulate now in a COVID situation. So these viruses can be like sent out of our body and killed. So this is immune level of self-regulation. So this is a micro level. The next level of self-regulation is hormonal. The hormones work in more global scale. So the hormones are actually released by different like special groups of cells, and it's have the target organs or target tissues. So if peptides change the activity of singular cell, so the hormones change the activity of particular organ or particular tissues. So it's more global self-regulation. So like it's regulate a lot of processes in our body. So it regulates like, so if you think about like adrenaline, so acetylcholine, so it's so this type of semi-hormone, semi-peptides. So it is what we are talking about here. So it's affect activity of our body very strongly. So the next level of self-regulation is a nerve system. So the nerve system is the latest, evolutionary latest self-regulation system, and it is fastest. So it is very fast, and the nerve impulse goes very fast to the parts of the body. And what it does actually, it regulates muscular activity. So, and it regulates also like, so cellular activity on some level, but mostly muscular activity. So even glandulars which regulate it, it's regulated through the muscles. So, and this is very simple. You get stimulus. I guess you all have this experiment in school when you took a frog and you take a like stimulus to the frog, and frog like moves the leg. So this is exactly how this works. But if you think about it, it's deeper than this. Because the nerve system is also what it does. It also has this, our speech is actually movement. When we are talking, it is a movement. When we are listening and understanding the words, at the very same moment, our motoric brain starts working. So we kind of repronounce the words that we listen in order to understand them. So we don't do this here, but we do this in our brains. The motoric like brain kind of reactivates the very same parts of the brain that would be activated if you talk by yourself, and you kind of learn this. So if you take these four systems together, so which was evolutionarily developing into the human being, so then from interaction of these four systems, which are very much interrelated, because some peptides at the same time, they are hormones, and at the same time, they're neurotransmitters. So the very same substance can be peptide, neurotransmitter, and hormone. So it works all together, and it's very much correlated work. So, and when these four systems work together, there is a very new quality arises. So there is a very new thing arises. We say emerge. So emergement, and it's when like parts of the systems doesn't have the quality which they have when they work together. When they work together, there is new quality arises. And this is our mentality. This is our brain. This is our psyche. This is our thinking. So our thinking is the actually latest and combined self-regulation system, which allows us to adjust much faster. Because if you think about all this self-regulation, the purpose of this is adjustment, is a capacity to adjust to new situation, to the changes which are happening, so and somehow to survive. So, and our brain, our thinking, our consciousness is the fastest way to change. Because before our self-consciousness arised, in order to change, there should go few generations and gene selections, and like it should be somehow fixated. So, but now you just become conscious of the situation, you rethink it, you make a new decision, and you change your behavior. It takes sometimes few seconds. Sometimes as a therapist, you know, it takes months, sometimes years, but still it's much faster than ever before in evolution. So our psyche is to be seen as actually capacity of all these physical systems. But the interesting thing is that when our consciousness is working, all these four systems are engaged. You cannot think a thought without affecting all these four systems. And all these four systems, that they actually govern all the processes in your body. So when you say psychosomatic, it's a little bit unfair, because it's the same psychosomatic as the somatopsychic. So it's kind of work both ways, and it's always works both ways. It's never, so there is no single physical event which doesn't affect our consciousness. And there is no conscious event which doesn't affect our body. It's just not possible. It's just not possible. And this is very interesting thing to understand. So you know this by your experience. Let's say like today, now you feel hopefully fresh, and your brain is working fine, and you're in a good consciousness. But let's say you are in this interesting conference with your colleagues, very excited, but still active. And then it's 4 o'clock or 6 o'clock tonight, and your brain is not working as good anymore. So, and your consciousness is not as good, and your decisions making is not as good anymore. And you become much more emotionally unstable. So why? Because your brain is tired. That's as simple as that. So is it clear here? This slide is very important to understand. So is that clear now? Good. So far, so good. Okay. So the psychosomatic arch. So we are coming to the point of our discussion today. So it's actually a very important tool to understand, to visualize the process of somatization. So from the first slide, you know, this is very important, extremely important to the doctors, because doctors need to understand how does it work. So it is extremely important for the patients. I don't speak here about psychologists because I'm a mostly medical doctor. So, but it's also important to understand some psychologists, because psychologists has another tendency. They have the tendency to over-romanticize the psyche, like to get too romantic about this, like the human being is the top of the universe, and we are so creative, so intelligent, so everything. But if we are so intelligent, we have some difficulties to change the simple behavior. So if we are so intelligent and so great, why when we get tired we're not so great anymore? So for psychologists, it's important to understand how much physiology affects our mentality. So for doctors backwards, for psychologists backwards. So, and so psychosomatic arch, it's actually a great chance to visualize and to understand what's going on. So, and at the end of the day, to optimize the treatment, to understand how the treatment would work. So the idea, so first of all, I need to say thank you to Arno for this information, because I didn't know much about it. So I knew some points, but I missed some. So, and so he was so kind to send the article in which he like very carefully dated the story of psychosomatic arch, because I guess it is important to remember on whose shoulders you are standing. So it was first suggested, and if I make some mistakes, Arno, please correct me. So the idea came as a hypothesis just on the go from Nossrat Peseschkian during some seminars. So in 1988. So those of you who ever taught something, you know how it goes. You try to explain something, and out of the sudden you get the idea which you like yourself. So it is an interesting phenomenon. So then, like, it was further developed, because like you can understand that our understanding of neurology, of psychology, of psychoneurology, of psychoimmunology is changed within this, 35 years, actually, 33 years. So tremendously. And so every time it's need to be changed accordingly.
Arno wanted to say something, Ivan.
Okay.
It was quite interesting that in that idea from 1988, Peseschkian had some ideas that later had been developed in science about neuroimmunology and so on. He said there must be some influence of the immune system, but we do not know how. At that time, it was not clear yet, but Peseschkian had that idea that was quite interesting and motivated us to go on with that.
Thank you.
Motivated us as students, I mean, to go on with that.
Thank you. And so thanks for this input. And this is what inspires me in the Nossrat's books. Because, so if you read these books, some ideas, they are given, but they are not described clearly. So it's not developed. But it's so inspiring because of this, because it creates a curiosity. And when you look back, like now I'm developing some of his ideas, and I kind of, okay, it's obvious. But when I look back and I'm thinking how it looked like in 70s and 80s, I understand that it was just not enough material, not enough knowledge to do that. So because we often forget how much science stepped forward within last 30 years. It's really amazing. So it was further developed like by Arno Remmers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times it was changed. Like so like I guess maybe Arno can add something here, but I guess with every new idea appearing in the science, so appearing from the colleagues through the seminars, so it's coming the new input in this. So Arno, if you want to say something here, because it's 5 updates, it's quite something. So you can do so. If
in 1994, it was just to find out, oh yes, there are some ideas that are really true, and it was taken into a book for trainings. Mm-hmm. In 2008, I had been working with eye doctors. And for the eye doctors, I summarized that again, what has been happening in the meantime, and also before sometimes in some seminars, okay, but for the eye doctors, then it was clear, also for the eye, these, let's say, these structures, this system of immunology, of peptides and so on is working. It's very strange that most medical doctors do not know that the eye also has a lot of psychosomatic disorders. So the eye doctors have been an input again to bring up neuroimmunology by an Austrian scientist, for instance, who gave input to that. And so today we know much, much more about especially the immunological system. The peptide system and the stress system had been discovered long before.
Okay, thank you, Arno. So, and then Ivanka Boncheva made her input in 2012. So then I did some updates in 2016, and what you will see now, it's the model from 2018 that was presented in Khmer. Frankly, it was a little bit developed afterwards, because like last year, I doing a lot of seminars for the doctors, and actually I should put here like 2020 or something. But and it's really interesting, because every seminar it gets some addition, because some doctor has some good idea and we put it there, you know. So what I will present is really based on a Nossrat Peseschkian's idea and all the further developments. So, but it's little bit changed, because in order to show the process and in order to understand how different symptoms specifically arise. So just to make it more clear. So, but basically it is the same psychosomatic arch. And if you see the original arch and you see what I will present now, it's basically understandable that this is the same thing. Yeah, and Arne Remmers also in 2018. Yeah, so it was a little change there, we noticed. So it's all start with actual event. It's all start with some change. And when we say actual event, it can be external, like, I don't know, it's become colder outside and it's lowered your body systems. So, or it can be internal, like it can be some virus get inside of you and start some changes. It can be real, or it can be imaginary. Because the interesting thing, when we imagine something, we actually stimulate our like sensory cells and our like motoric cells of our brain. We stimulate them to work as they would work in a real situation. So the actual event can be anything. It can be your fantasy, or it can be actual something happening. So then the first thing which happens, it's a basic perception. I'm not speaking here about filtered perception, when you psychologically understand it. It's way before it. It's milliseconds before it. It's when your eye perceives this, when your ear perceives this, or when you know that something going on in your brain. It's just very initial. You're not conscious about this at all. So, and it's already go to the vegetative level of CNS, of central nerve system, and even before it on pons and the automatic nerve system. And we speak here about vegetative level, which is not conscious and not being, and we cannot directly control it. Well, indirectly we can trick it, but directly we cannot control it. So, and what happened here is pure neurotransmission. It's just nerve stimuli goes like from the periphery to the center, and there it's just circles back as a reaction. So, and in this moment, like actually what's happening, so your nerve system kind of awaken. So it's switched on. At this moment, adrenaline didn't yet go to the blood. It's only go to the synapses. The synapses, it's a small gap between the neurons. So it's just kind of works as a neurotransmitter. It's not a hormonal level. So, and how you experience this is excitation. So because the body starts produce energy, it doesn't know how it will use it. It's just produce the energy for action. It prepares you for action. And this is what Celia called stress. So this is very general phenomenon. We kind of awaken. So in order to understand what's going on, and the body is already getting ready for action. So basically, when the body created stress, it should be somehow discharged motorically. So if you created energy, this energy should be used. So you should do something. If you don't do something, then so you have tension. So because the energy, it's kind of still there and you're ready to act, but you don't do anything, and anxiety. Because what anxiety is, it's undirected energy of stress. It's when you don't use this energy, you experience anxiety. It's like when the water is boiling in a pot and it's closed, so it starts jumping there. So it's like anxiety. It's exactly what it is. So is it clear about this level? So it's just excitement, energy creation. Arno?
The only thing that I found out in the last years is that even perception is depending on the kind of personality and experience. So what we perceive already is filtered before we have any conscious perception. So a person who grows up with spiders, does see a spider, nothing. Other persons have immediately, within half a second, a stress reaction. It depends on their experience. So even perception is a learned process and depends on the personality. That's something strange that overrides the only physical or physiological structures, because the structures are formed by this experience too, to perceive.
Yeah, totally agree. Because like, so here we can say actual event, which is recognized as different. Actual event means some change, because like, so what Arno told, if I deal with the spiders of all my life, so the spider goes and I don't see it as anything different. So it's something which I used to, so I have like very developed thing. But yes, so thanks for this addition, Arno, because it's actually, this perception is affected by our experience. It's an important thing. So because what we perceived as different, as sudden, as difficult. So like I'm sure if you tell about psychological trauma, about things which we say is a psychological trauma to someone who was living in a Second World War, they would louder, because like, so this is a trauma? Really? Somebody tell you bad word? Is this a trauma? Because they have some very different level of trauma, and their zero level was very different. So, and the perception was different. So exactly. So then the impulse, and we are talking about milliseconds here, then it's going to the limbic level. So, and then reaction becomes, so because the body arises, but then body needs to act. And our emotion is actually inborn physiological and behavioral patterns to direct the energy of stress. It's inborn physiological and behavioral scenarios to direct the energy of stress. So as we discussed before, it's probably even in a level of DNA reproduction. So it's that deep. We experience it as something that we call emotion, but in physiological level, it is very deep physiological processes. And it's inborn and very like same in all cultures. Our perception and description of this is different. In different cultures, it's cultural dependent, but our physiological experience is more or less the same. And it's work on a hormonal and peptide level. So if before we was talking about only neurotransmission, but here it's already hormonal and peptide reaction after amygdala processed the experience. Because if amygdala recognize something as dangerous, it's 1 cup of tea. If amygdala says, nothing happens, it's just the spiders and I get used to it, then basically the reaction stops right there. It's just you get probably motorical discharge because you didn't notice it and it was a little bit sudden, but then you kind of say, okay, fine, it's a spider. Or if amygdala says it's unknown, the stress continues again. So it's a limbic level, it's emotional memory, and it's like physiologically, it's level of emotion. So it's not only energy created, it's also impulse created, because emotion directs this into physical action. So you have impulse to act, you have impulse to run, you have impulse to beat somebody's face, so you have impulse to do whatever. So, and here how you can discharge it, you can let it go. You can just kind of consciously, so either let it go like as a reaction, So you can run away, or you can beat somebody, or you can just decide, okay, I let it go. It's not that important. Yeah, I understand my reaction, but I don't care anymore. So this is kind of mentalization way of letting it go. But if you don't let it go physically or mentally, so what happens? So these impulses, they are there. They should be revealed somehow. They are already in a motoric part of the brain. So, and they activate the muscles. So, and it's turned into conversion that we know as a conversive disorders. So, okay, Arno?
Here also fight, flight, and freeze are something that we know from the alligator's brain part in us. So it's a very, very old part. So to fear, to fly away, danger, to fight, or dissociation, to freeze, like the mouse in front of the snail. And that's openness and politeness also in Peseschkian's model. Either I go out or I go inside, extroversion, introversion.
Yeah, this is it, but and this is even richer. I put here the major impulses, which is fear, anger, dissociation. But it also can be like any other emotion. So, and it's important to understand that anxiety is not emotion; it's state. But then it can be like happiness. It can be like anything actually, like contempt. Disgust, so anything. So, but the major things are these ones. So, and then, so this is a limbic level. So we have like already understanding of tension and anxiety, how it's generated, and how conversive disorder generated. Because if it's if person like because of the key conflict decides not to let it go, not to react, so then he would have like some subconversion, but if it's long enough, it will be real conversion sooner or later. And actually, for the eye doctors, it is very important because a lot of what I heard from the eye doctors, they say it's very much goes in this pattern as a conversion. Many eyes disorders goes this way. So then what happens? Then it all goes to, so if it's not released as an action for whatever reason, so it's go in as an inner conflict, into the inner conflict stage. It's again in CNS, but now it's already in a cortical level because the concepts exist in a cortical level. So it was a vegetative level, limbic level, and now it is a cortical level. So because in a cortical level, we kind of make our experience into concepts. So we verbalize it, first of all, and then out of the words, we create the concept. So first you experience love, then you call it love. First you experience something like suppression as a politeness, then you call it politeness. First you experience something, then you call it sadness. So, and then when it's verbalized already on a cortical level, so then it's not only sensitive and motoric association, it's also verbal association. So the word itself, without any event, can stimulate the whole chain of associations. So you say love, and person out of the sudden becomes sad because he believes that nobody loves me. So, okay, it's a cortex level where we have this concept, and these concepts can fight with each other. They can fight with reality. They can fight with the concepts of other people. So we have this inner conflict as we know it. So, and the problem with the conflict that it exists longer time, and it can create a chronic stress. So on a level of the body, it's a chronic stress. And you either solve this conflict somehow, and to solve the conflict, you have to make it conscious. It's what we are trying to do in positive psychotherapy. We try to bring the conflicts in a conscious level and to stimulate person to solve it somehow. So, but if you don't do this, so we got mood disorders, So as a long-term anxiety, as a depression, or like other mood disorders, and in a physiological level, it's what most often called psychosomatic. It's actually functional disorders. It's when the system of regulation, of vegetative regulation, is actually a little bit broken. When it's too much adrenaline or too much oxytocin, and it's affect actually vessels regulation, vessels constriction and dilatation. And then the thing is that the body, the part of the body, the organ, the system which is weaker genetically somehow reacts the first. So if you have genetical predisposition, like let's say let's say heart disorders, and cholesterol creation, so it can affect this. So if you have like digestion problems predisposed, like, so it affects this. So but in this level, so the symptoms are already there, very much defined, but you cannot find any physiological changes. But the next thing which is activated, as you know, if there is an inner conflict, then there is an impulse, and the next stage there is a key conflict. So, and if key conflict, so suppress this reaction, so then it's also cortex level of self-regulation. It's a kind of impulse regulation level. So then it's a suppression or unattendance of the impulse. So and the problem is that if the impulse and conflict is suppressed and unattended, it exists even longer. It's not solving. So, and then what happens when stress is long enough, it's exhaustion, and neuroimmune mechanism gets switched on because of this. And so at the end of the day, we get organic disorders. So we get higher risk of organic disorders. Something that was just functional gastritis yesterday, today is real gastritis or ulcer, and it's already can be found by tests and exams. So because with acute conflicts, the solution is very obvious. It's either reaction and external conflict or external help. Or if you're afraid external conflicts too much, so then you suppress it inside and it becomes somatized even stronger. So that's it about psychosomatic arch. Is it clear now? How does it work? Or is there any questions? So we got now how the tension and anxiety develops, how conversion develops, how the functional disorders develops, and how the organic disorders can be developed. But we don't say that every organic disorder is because of the psychological stress, because like viral stress or any stress, physiological stress also can bring the very same thing. So it doesn't matter where stress comes from. Okay, Arno?
Just to add that you wrote here mood disorders, that means affective disorders. Affective disorders statistically are linked with a lot more of organic disorders. So people with depression and chronic depression or repeated depressive phases have much more organic disorders and die earlier, not because of suicide, but because of having many more organic disorders because of this mechanism you described.
Yeah, it's like, so thanks for this, Arno, because like frankly saying these three stages, so they all depend on the key conflict, because like, so you cannot let it go if you have solving the key conflict badly. But I just put it separately because of the difference in time. So initially it's just some conversion, and then it's a mood disorders and thing, and then it's organic. So in order to understand how it develops in time. But frankly saying, so this is the same mechanism. Okay, is that clear? Good.
Ivan,
So,
I also want to ask you something, because you mentioned those things like, let's say, double-way street, right? Psychosomatic or somatopsychic. Somatopsychic. So as a conclusion, we can say that actually our mind has this capacity of getting us sick or ill. But what about the other way relationship, the other way around relationship, that we can become healthy again using our mind as well?
Don't write too fast. I have 2 more slides. But thank for the first part of this question as well, because this is important, actually very important, because as you see, so there is no symbolicity here. But the thing is, so that in a development of the system, unlike many psychologists think, there is not that much symbols. But as soon as you have any physiological thing, any physiological pain or suffering, immediately you symbolize it. So therefore, so we should understand that in appearance of the symptoms, there is no symbolism. But as soon as the disorder is there, so it's already have symbolic meaning as well. Not only physiological, but symbolic, we symbolize it. It's kind of, we get psychosomatic first, we can say, and then somatopsychic back. So and it's what happens when so for instance, when you have virus, it's not psychological, it's just a virus. But as soon as you have it, even before you have it, there is already psychological reactions. And it's kind of works both ways. So, okay. So for treatment of the patients, we can and should use symbols, surely. But for ourselves, like to understand, we should think about this more as about like consistent process. Okay. So to the topic of the lecture. So this was all preliminary, and now we end up it very fast. But okay, in order to make our body less sensitive to stress and not to perceive their spiders too much, so we need to develop our physiological resilience and our physiological experiences, which mean to train first of all, to train vegetative balance, the balance of activity and relaxation. So we need to train our muscles, we need to train our organs, we need to train our body. That's the first thing, physiological resilience. Breathing exercises, physical activity, food, all of these things are important. And to be actually included in psychotherapy if you do like holistically treatment. So in this level, so what's important is to develop capacity to contact, to notice feelings of yourself and other people and to name them. Capacity to name feelings, to name emotions is extremely important, because only when you name it, you can attend it consciously. Before you name it, you cannot attend it consciously. You cannot change anything. So, and also capacity of pleasures. So capacity to, first of all, to let yourself experience all the range of experience as pleasant and not pleasant ones, and to understand what trigger caused what. So you like ice cream, very well. You don't like whatever you don't like let's say eggs, very well. You know what brings you pleasure, what doesn't. So because this gives you understanding of, okay, I'm angry, why I am angry. And you look around and you notice what triggers this anger, and then you know what it is. And then you can do something about this. You can avoid it. Or you can decide that you change your concept about it. So then you can do anything about it. But before you notice what triggers this, there is nothing. So you cannot deal with this. So, and it's also capacity to enjoy life, to let yourself enjoying life and to give time to this, etc. So which creates this restoration for the body. So the next thing, if we have the functional disorder, then it's obvious that we need to develop the internal communication capacities. So which is capacity of meaning, of understanding the reasoning, understanding the causality. And like also dealing with our ideals, because our concepts are our ideals. So, and it's important capacity to idealize something which is trusty, which we experience and it works. But it's also important to idealize it when you know it's not working anymore. So some things that used to work in your childhood probably doesn't work anymore. You need to be able to recognize it and to rethink it, reconceptualize it. And this is capacity of ideal. So then the next thing, like with a key conflict, so we need to develop external communications capacities, which is time. So understanding that everything in this world not happening just like this, it takes time. Is it about objects or is it about people or is it about yourself even? So it takes time. So, and also you need to learn trust. And trust to the external world, not only to the people, but to external world of objects as well. Trust to the people so you can show them who you are, you can show them your emotions, you can speak about it, you can ask for help. So this takes development of these capacities. So and also the more longer term capacities is a capacity to love, to get really attached to the objects. Because if you don't trust object, it's very difficult to attach to it really for the long time. So, and take care of them and accept care, ask for help and accept care. It's also a very important skill. So, and basically now you see that if you see certain symptoms with a person, you can already have some ideas what to be developed. And sure, for the person with organic disorders, everything should be developed from resilience till the end. So if it's just anxiety and tension, sometimes the vitamins and physical activity can solve the issue. It's not always about inner conflict. So sometimes it's very physiological. So and it's important to know, and it's important to differentiate in order to give the proper treatment and to differentiate the treatment. Is it clear? Okay, the last slide, especially for my dear friend. So the first thing, so the last year, so the concept is not new actually. So the concept actually was started from Nossrat Peseschkian, but somehow nobody picked it up quite strongly. So, but when I started last year to do this seminars with the doctors, it's interesting. The initiative came from them. They start to ask, okay, in my normal meeting with the patient, I don't have time for this. What can I do? And so some of the doctors who finished our like specialized basic course for psychosomatic, so they already started their side of the doctor's practice. They start the practice of what we called now, we was thinking very long about this, but now we try to brand it as the psychosomatic health. So it's P like for psycho, S for somatic, and H for health. It's psychosomatic health. So, and they start to train to coach, to train their patients in order to develop 4 sides of psychosomatic health. And 4 parts of the psychosomatic health, not surprisingly, are very simple. It's physical. So it's what we call resilience. So it's social. It's about relationships and how to build relationships and key conflicts, or to be open, to get help, to give help, and all these kind of things. So the third is behavioral. What to do actually to achieve the better results in life and not to be disappointed. So, and it is psychological, how to develop your inner world, how to develop your concepts, how to develop your fantasies, your beliefs, your ideals, your meanings in such a way that they will help to maintain the health. So, and now that's it. So I'm sorry, but I was taking 10 more minutes. Hopefully it's not a big deal. So what was important for you, can I ask, in this hour?
You did not take 5 minutes, Ivan, because we still have 5 minutes of discussion. So we are quite on time, and it's really great. For me personally, that was the main idea of knowing how to go forward, but also to go backwards, you know, in order to fix some things that they are, let's say, unbalanced until a certain moment. And it's more clear to me, this connection, this, let's say, chart that you've made for us, going from the, let's say, physiological point of view, and gradually just to increase up to emotional disorders, let's say, or mood disorders, as you mentioned, then through all those stages, and having an idea on how you can actually approach according to the stage you find a certain person in this process. And thank you for this connection, especially for the last slide.
Yeah, I really like this idea that psychologists finally start at the consulars, they start to think not only about psychological part, which is important as we saw, but also thinking about how they can develop the resilience of the person. Because whenever we have the psychological suffering, it's usually already at least the vegetative suffering as well. It's non-specific symptoms. If you take any mental disorder, the 60–70% of the symptoms is just vegetative symptoms. It's not specific. It's non-specific symptoms, and they can be helped very much by physiological procedures and by training and things like this. Another cup of tea, how to make patient really do it. So this is another thing.
And do you think somehow that this resilience is the capacity, let's say, that makes the difference between some people developing psychosomatic disorders and those ones they don't? Is it resilience? Is it resilience plus something?
So here I took resilience more in physiological sense, but we can speak about resilience as a psychological resilience, etc. So, and in general, sure. So, and yes, about both sides. Like, yes, about physiological, like for instance, with this corona, like all my family got corona like 2 months ago. But because of my physiological resilience was lower than the younger ones, for obvious reasons, so I was suffering a bit more than they did. So so yeah, sure. And the same about psychological resilience. Someone with a stronger psychological resilience has a stronger physiological resilience usually. So this is a different subject to study. But here in this particular case, I took specifically physiological resilience, because of psychological resilience, all the rest of it. So all the rest of the circle is psychological resilience. Okay. Anything else? Questions, feedbacks?
Ivan, I would like to thank you for your... Sorry.
Yeah, it was my Siri. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I wanted to say thank you for your presentation. For me, it was very, very interesting, the connection you made between the psychosomatic arch and capacities and disorders. This is very interesting, and I think we can develop more on this.
So, thank you for...
made me think really hard.
Thank you for your curiosity, because this is the reason why I presented. I hope you will bring it further. I hope you will bring it further. Please don't stop thinking about this. Don't discharge this conflict. Have it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
That's your present for us, Ivan, right? This conflict, that we should take it and enjoy it somehow. Thank you.
Develop your capacity to enjoy the conflicts. That's fun. Yeah.
Maybe you remember that last year in Khmer, the logo of the Congress was to pass the torch to the young generation. So the young generation has to take this psychosomatic arch and to develop it further, as Ivan said.
Yeah, so those of you who are interested, I can give you like at least 10 very specific questions which I don't have answers for and which can stimulate you even more. Okay, if you take it from my shoulders, I will be just happy.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you very much for your time, and I pass it further.
Thank you very much, Ivan, for taking us into this journey